Throughout the history of the video game industry, you see a lot of trend chasing from developers and publishers. Rather than trying to create their own innovative experiences, they try to emulate the success of others and try to cash in on something that's very popular. Right now, that can be said with so many publishers making Battle Royale games, and you have these live service games, which ended up working very well for Fortnite and Epic Games. Fortnite ended up being the most successful game in all of video game history in terms of revenue, in terms of overall interest. Fortnite just became a huge thing. So all these developers and publishers tried to make their own version of Fortnite with a few little different takes on it. It wasn't an exact copy of Fortnite like a lot of these Battle Royale games. Warzone, you obviously can't say Warzone's the same game as Fortnite, but if there was no Fortnite, if there was no PUBG, there would definitely be no Warzone. And the same thing can be said when you go back to the early to mid 2000s and look back at the Grand Theft Auto series. Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas were all very successful games, selling millions upon millions of copies. I believe San Andreas is actually the best-selling game for the PlayStation 2. So as a result of that, you had a lot of studios making their own Grand Theft Auto style game, also known as Grand Theft Auto clones. Think of games like Saints Row, Just Cause, True Crime, Mafia. Even The Simpsons had their own take on Grand Theft Auto. And although all these games had their own things kind of going for them, they weren't exact one-to-one copies of Grand Theft Auto. There is absolutely no question that if it weren't for Grand Theft Auto 3, none of those games would have ever existed. But yeah, it felt like there were so many games back then that were inspired by Grand Theft Auto. Now, though, it's so weird, because we had Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013, so it's been a full decade since we've had a GTA game, and we probably have to wait at least a few more years for Grand Theft Auto 6. But it's just so weird how back then the market was so oversaturated with these open world sandbox games that have you stealing cars and shooting rival gang members and escaping from the cops. There were so many games like that back in the day, you couldn't keep up. Now we're starving for more games like that. The amount of games that we have had that are so-called GTA clones that most people would describe as a game that's heavily inspired by Grand Theft Auto and plays similar to Grand Theft Auto. The amount of games like that we have had since the release of Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013 has been very small, smaller than you may think. There's actually only been about 7 games that you can describe as a GTA clone, and I'm talking really about AAA games. I'm sure that you could think of a whole bunch of indie games that are inspired by GTA. A lot of them, though, I've seen are more like the original games, like GTA 1 and 2 have that top-down isometric thing going on. But yeah, we've only had 7 AAA Grand Theft Auto-inspired games since the release of Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013. And those 7 games are Watch Dogs 1, Watch Dogs 2, Watch Dogs Legion, so 3 of them are in the Watch Dogs series, Saints Row Reboot, the new one that just came out, Mafia 3, Just Cause 3, and Just Cause 4. You could include an 8th game in that conversation, which would be Cyberpunk 2077, because it does have certain game mechanics that were definitely inspired by Grand Theft Auto, where you can drive cars, you can steal cars, there is a wanted system where you have to escape from the cops, and there's a lot of stuff like that. But if we're really being honest here, the driving and shooting mechanics of Cyberpunk are barely on par with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, never mind Grand Theft Auto 4 or Grand Theft Auto 5. So I would really have a hard time including that in the conversation, especially since Cyberpunk is more of like an RPG type game, has a lot more in common with games like Fallout and Skyrim and of course The Witcher than it does with Grand Theft Auto. So I'll say 7, aside from remasters and all that kind of stuff, because Mafia 1 Remake technically was released, I think it was like in 2019 or 2020, and you had the Sleeping Dogs remaster on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but the original Sleeping Dogs actually came out a year before in 2012 on the 360 and PlayStation 3. So yeah, only 7 main AAA games, and most of them are shit. I mean, the Saints Row reboot, everyone knows about that, garbage. Mafia 3 is pretty good, I would say. Like, I think, honestly, the story is amazing, the overall gameplay is great, but just the repetitiveness of the game. You feel like you're playing the same missions over and over and over and over again, where you like go to one base, kill all the enemies, and you just do that all over again. It's a very repetitive game that overstayed its welcome very quickly. Just Cause 3 and Just Cause 4, two games that I really didn't care much for either. Watch Dogs, the first Watch Dogs I actually really liked. The second one I couldn't get into. Watch Dogs Legion, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. So most of them are not even good games, and definitely not on par with Grand Theft Auto. I would make the argument that Saints Row and Saints Row 2 were certainly on par with the Grand Theft Auto series back then. I believe Saints Row 2 and Grand Theft Auto 4 came out on the same year in 2008, and both games were equal quality in my opinion. Grand Theft Auto 4 is definitely my favorite GTA game. Saints Row 2 is my favorite Saints Row game, and they were both like easily 9.5 out of 10, maybe even 10 out of 10 games. I think a lot of the criticism against Saints Row back then, it just being a shameless Grand Theft Auto ripoff, was very unfair, because there were a lot of things that Saints Row did that were very innovative, like the character creation, the clothing customization, just the overall customization with the cars, and everything in that game were like nothing else we ever seen in any video game before. But even if it was a straight ripoff of Grand Theft Auto, but did everything on a competent level and was on the same level as Grand Theft Auto in terms of gameplay, in terms of overall storytelling and all that kind of stuff, something like that would actually be really good in 2023, where we haven't had a real experience like that in 10 years since Grand Theft Auto 5. So that's why I was really hoping with the Saints Row reboot that we would have gotten a game that was more like Saints Row 1 and a lot less like Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4, because I was not a big fan of those games. I think they just tried so hard not to be compared to Grand Theft Auto, have all these, have the aliens and have the gang members become celebrities and all this kind of weird shit, the purple dildos, that they just lost their way too much. They went way too off the deep end. That the series eventually lost its identity, and with the new reboot game, they kind of wanted to go somewhere in between. They didn't want to be as wacky as Saints Row 4, but they also didn't want to be as gritty as Saints Row 1. So they kind of went somewhere in the middle, but the characters just sucked and were not relatable and were just terrible, and you just wanted to punch them every time they showed up on your screen. These, like, Gen Z gang members, like, I don't know what the fuck that was all about. Yeah, terrible game. But if they did go the route where it was just a shameless Grand Theft Auto ripoff, I guarantee you the game would have done a lot better. And, of course, if it didn't have a lot of bugs and stuff, because that's a big problem with the Saints Row reboot, is that it definitely could have used more time in the oven. It was definitely unpolished, definitely didn't get as much love as it should have, especially considering we haven't had a Saints Row game in, I think it was 9 years by the time the Saints Row reboot came out. Since Saints Row 4, I won't count Gat out of Hell. But yeah, I think we actually need more games like that. Since Rockstar is depriving us of Grand Theft Auto, yeah, we need more Grand Theft Auto clones. Absolutely. Like, I love how we go from being so oversaturated and having too many games like Grand Theft Auto to having almost none. At least none worth playing. So I think that if we do have a game that's like that, it will do very well, as long as it doesn't have a bunch of technical issues and actually tells a good story, has good writing and memorable characters, an open world that actually feels alive, because that's another big problem with these open world games, is that they're technically open world, but there's literally nothing to do in these open worlds and just feel so lifeless. Like, if you ever played Saints Row 2, the city of Stillwater is one of the most vibrant, full of life, open world maps that we have ever seen and probably ever will see. But with the Saints Row series being on ice again and Volition being absorbed into Gearbox, so they're probably going to be making more Borderlands stuff, Tiny Tina, whatever the fuck they're doing. Not that it really matters anyway, because the same people that made Saints Row 1 and 2 are clearly not the same people that made the reboot game. Either way, more studios need to step up and fill the void that Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row have left behind in the market, and give us some more open-world crime games in the style of Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row, and even Sleeping Dogs. That was a really good game. But for 10 years, we haven't had a single game that has come close to delivering that experience for us. So that definitely needs to change. I don't know if it will change, but I hope it does.